As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wai. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Rewind-A-SmackDown. 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 Rewind-A-SmackDown.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind-A-SmackDown. I'm John Pollock here alongside Wai Ting here on a Tuesday night coming off of a pretty eventful episode of SmackDown from Atlanta. We got everything from Brock Lesnar to chokeslams through tables and Offset. Was this the SmackDown you envisioned, Wai?
No, not at all. I wouldn't have envisioned even two of those things. Well, maybe two of them, but certainly not all three on the same show. Yeah.
So we have lots to talk about with SmackDown. How should we start? What do you want to get into first?
Maybe a bit of either the news or what's coming up this week or our contest. What do you think?
Let's start off with the contest, Wai. What is this magical contest we do every Tuesday night?
Every single Tuesday, as a way to thank all of our wonderful patrons at our Patreon, which is the Post Wrestling Cafe, we give out a t-shirt and stickers and a postcard to somebody who is a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe. So as I stall for time while I bring this list up, because it always takes forever to load, John,
this is like putting Steve Austin or The Undertaker in the first segment. People maybe are not expecting it. You think that we're going to build to the contest, but here we're throwing you a curveball and we're doing the contest now.
Are you suggesting they'll tune out after this?
Completely? No. Unlike Raw, we see strong second hour growth. And should we go 3, I'm sure we would hold on to everybody.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay. So everyone that joins the Post Wrestling Cafe, you're automatically entered into this draw each and every Tuesday night to win this Post Wrestling prize pack. And we have scrolled through the names. Wai has selected from the Post Wrestling Tumblr the winning name, and that person's name is...
Congratulations to Randy. Randy out of Vancouver, BC. If there are a number of you, Randy L. Okay, Randy L. Congratulations.
Randy L.
Yes, Randy L. out of Vancouver, BC. You win a Post Wrestling prize pack. So I'll be sending you a message. And congrats.
We just had 8 Randys in Vancouver go, because the 9th one won. Randy L.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so it sounds more like Randy W tonight.
That's right. Yes, instead of the L. I got it.
Actually, I heard this awesome joke today. I actually linked to Pat McAfee's team put a behind-the-scenes video of their first week constructing their set and how the first week went. And they had this football player on, and his name is Will. And he ends the interview by saying, "So it's Will with 1 L?" And this guy comes back and he's like, "Yeah, 1 L. We gave the other one to New Orleans." Because I guess they had just beat them. I was like, damn, that is on your feet. I mean, I guess he's probably been asked that question a million times, but I guess the fact they're coming off a win, what a great comeback.
It's one you can pretty much recycle.
You can use that one quite a lot. I would use it all the time.
Yeah.
So there you go. Congratulations, Randy L. Let's quickly go through the schedule. Wednesday night, or Wednesday all day, it's a busy one. We've got the British Wrestling Experience that's going to be dropping late afternoon with Martin, Benno, and Jamesy. Special interview with Daniel Maccabi on that show. They're going to be chatting about the recent OTT card and going through a thorough review of all the latest news, what went down at the Progress show this past Sunday. All of that will be covered on Wednesday's show. Wai and I will be back Wednesday evening with the double shot for our cafe members, going through the final 2 episodes of Glow, and I believe Wai has got us all up to speed, or will get us up to speed, on Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I spent most of the day yesterday watching the show. I'm up towards Filthy Tom Lawler taking on Davey Boy Smith. It'll be a fun one to talk about.
How long was the show?
I think all in all, excluding intermission, I mean, you could pretty much 3 hours if you just want to watch like all the action. There was like a prelims as well with 2 matches.
Oh, okay. So we'll get a report from Wai on that on the Double Shot as well, so you can check all of that out. But late Wednesday night, the big one, Braden Harrington and Davey Portman, they will have a show following NXT's debut on the USA Network. They'll be running through both hours, hour 1 on USA, hour 2 on the WWE Network, and they will have some news of their own that they're going to be sharing on Wednesday's show, and I'm sure we will be discussing said news when they come to the post office on Thursday, live in studio for the Cafe Hangout, which will be happening 3 p.m. Eastern Time for our double-double Ice Cap and Espresso patrons. Hope to take many of your calls as well. Coming off of NXT, we'll get everyone's reaction and all the news that is going down. Then Friday, it is the return of our MCU reviews. This month, we are reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I cannot wait for this.
Me neither. It'll be a fun one to talk about.
This is
Kurt Russell.
maybe we are going to rank the best soundtracks of the MCU.
I'd love to play that game. I mean, I don't know how many are in contention, really, but like
maybe best songs utilized within some of these. I think we could go through some of these for sure.
Okay.
So that's on Friday. Should be a very fun review. That will be up on the Cafe. Saturday night, Davey's going to be going through the Evolve cards. There's a card Friday and Saturday. He's going to have a show up Saturday night. Tentatively, we'll be joined by Jesse from the Six, going through all of those. And then the week concludes with Wai and I Sunday night with a New Japan Destruction in Kobe post-show, recapping that show from Japan with Jay White versus Tetsuya Naito in the main event. We'll go through the entire card for patrons as well. So great week to join the Post Wrestling Cafe if you so choose, postwrestlingcafe.com. And now we can head into all of the news. There was quite a bit of it coming out on Tuesday. So we start off with our favorite discussion every week. How many people watched Raw on Monday night? This week, the answer, 2,272,000 viewers was your average over the 3 hours. So they were up almost 7% from last week. They didn't have as watched a football game as last week with the doubleheader last week. So it helped them. They started off with just over 2.4 million viewers in the first hour, fell 4% in the second hour, and then fell an additional 10% in the third hour. So Seth Rollins and Robert Roode in the main event led to just over 2 million viewers sticking around for that third hour as well. And then, of course, we had all the run-ins and such. The NFL game did 11.8 million viewers. So year to year, it was almost identical with what football did last year, although Raw was down this year 14.5%. Last year's week was actually the Emmy Awards were on that same night as well, I learned today. So anyway, that's kind of our whole picture here. I'm assuming, Wai, this is kind of where I'm thinking Raw is going to be most weeks, is around this average. And this is going to be your typical football audience. And unless you have something really big on Raw, such as the draft that they have coming up, I would say 2.2 is maybe your target that you can assume Raw is going to garner most weeks. Do you see any reason it could be higher or even go lower than this?
I mean, unless there's a much more stiffer competition from NFL, I agree. I think this will probably be, where we'll be sitting at. It kind of remains to be seen too, once they actually go through with the brand split and the draft, whether or not that'll help or hinder, I think, a rating like this. I'm sure they have a lot of things planned to try to mitigate the losses.
Yeah, October's going to be interesting because that's always a tough month because you have the baseball playoffs as well, especially when you get to the World Series, which I don't know if they actually face a game on Monday, but nonetheless, there will be playoff games. But this year you have the draft, which that's 1 week. And I would say that the draft, probably gives you 1 week of curiosity from people to see what the show looks like the next week. So I would be... you'd hope that they at least get one additional Monday of a little bump from that as well.
For sure.
But anyway, October is a tough one. We will see how things go there. We talked about the Big Cass situation on Monday's show. He did put out a statement that he actually sent through Enzo, and I'm just going to read his statement that he put out here over the WrestlePro incident from Saturday. To my fans and all concerned, I've been very honest with my past struggles, and it has been an ongoing battle. On Saturday night, I obviously let my demons get the better of me, and I ruined an important night for a really great guy in an unfortunate series of events. I have worked incredibly hard to get where I am and even harder to overcome my ongoing battle with depression, but I will work my absolute hardest to right the wrongs of Saturday night and apologize to Kevin Matthews, Pat Buck, Joey Janela, the entire WrestlePro locker room, and all parties involved from the bottom of my heart. I'm getting help from family and friends as we speak, and will be getting professional help in the near future, and ask all to please respect my privacy in the meantime. When and if I emerge as a public figure, it will be in good faith, and I hope to inspire those who struggle with the same mental health issues that I do to seek the help they need. If Tyson Fury can do it, so can I. Remember, I ain't dead yet, and neither are you. And he signs this William Patrick Morrissey III. So, from just this statement, I mean, it comes across as a very sincere, genuine apology from him as well. I mean, he's not making any excuses. He is not disputing anything that happened. He just seems to be owning the mistakes that happened on the weekend. And I think that's how it was largely received today when people read this.
Yeah, I mean, I read it and I felt like it seems like he might be on the right path to recovery. And really, it's a personal struggle that he can only really answer himself. But the fact that he posted this on Enzo's Twitter, I think bodes well for the fact that he's hopefully not on social media all that much, because I don't know how much that would really help in a situation like this. So hopefully he could take the time out of the public eye for as long as he needs, and hopefully he's met with positivity when he comes back.
It's a great point you raised on Monday about the impact that being on social media is probably. It's probably a good idea to not even be attached to this and just not even posting this under his own account, just staying away from that stuff. I mean, him coming out of this past weekend, going online and just reading what I'm sure are some brutal comments. What possible good is that going to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we also had the announcement on Tuesday. Impact is promoting their Bound for Glory event. So we've now got 4 matches announced for this show. The latest being Naomichi Marufuji from Noah coming over to take on Michael Elgin. And that joins the previously announced matches with Brian Cage and Sami Callihan for the Impact title, Ken Shamrock versus Moose, and then Dr. Wagner Jr. and 2 opponents that have not been named yet taking on the Rascals. And this is quite the diverse lineup. I didn't know if I would see a card that would feature Naomichi Marufuji and Ken Shamrock together in 2019, but here we are.
I mean, it seems to suggest that they're trying to reach out to all corners of, I think, the wrestling world to try to raise the level of star power. And I'm kind of curious to see what Ken Shamrock looks like right now in 2019.
Oh, I've seen what this guy looks like. It's pretty nuts what he looks like in 2019.
Have you seen him in a wrestling ring?
Yeah, he's I just saw photos of him from the recent tapings where they were setting this up.
I guess I more meant just how he looks.
Oh, actually
in
wrestling.
Yeah,
I see. Gotcha.
I feel like it's been a while, to my knowledge, but despite it's one thing for obviously an aged fighter to fight in an MMA cage, but in wrestling, when you're doing something cooperative, I'm at least a bit more hopeful to see how Ken Shamrock might look like. So it's got my curiosity.
Did you get to see Road to AEW tonight?
Yes, I did.
Do you want to quickly chat about that before we go into SmackDown?
Absolutely.
So they put up the latest episode tonight, and they started it off with Rio, and I was so confused, Wai. She doesn't speak English. How can we promote a performer that doesn't speak English to a majority English-speaking audience? And they utilized the tool of subtitles, and Riho felt like the most amazing babyface by the end of this. She talked about what a difference the size of the audience is in AEW compared to Japan. Then they shifted to her match with Nyla Rose on the debut episode for the women's title. And she knows she's undersized and she's the underdog, but I have no weaknesses or fear, and I want to have a clean and fair match.
It was wonderful. Yeah. I think, seeing Riho's match from the last AEW show, one of the things that really stood out to me was I think the audience wasn't that reactive to that match, largely because they haven't really done a piece like this for any of the Japanese women in AEW so far. This was much needed, especially if Riho is, presumably going to be, I would think, in the main event of that particular first show if she's going for the title against Nyla Rose. So I think something like this is probably overdue. Maybe just due to lack of access. I don't know what the status is of her like moving over here, how accessible she was to film a spot like this. But they did a great job, like from the way it looked to just the interview itself. It came across really well, and I think just even this little 2-3 minute piece was enough to get that AEW audience on their side, and I think they'll be invested.
I thought this was just a great profile piece. I would have loved to have, if as she is uprooting herself and leaving Japan, like having footage of that, of like saying goodbye to everyone as she's going off on this huge journey to go to the US and such.
There are like there's so many great ideas. I would love that too, John, but I'm sure like this is a relatively small crew, I would think, at this point, who are probably all overworked trying to like put this TV show together. So I imagine things like that, hopefully you'll start to see like, piece by piece. But perhaps like that's where like being the elite might come in. That's where maybe you kind of use the more like selfie video types of things. But again, I get the feeling it's a very small crew trying to like do all this right
now. Then we had Tony Schiavone in the updated control center.
Yeah, virtual set, standing there. I like it.
It looked cool. I thought it looked really cool. It didn't look like I just thought it looked really professional, and he goes over the matches that are going to be happening on the debut episode, Cody and Sammy Guevara, which I believe is the first match that's going to happen. Then Nyla Rose, Riho, Jericho and his mystery partners against Kenny Omega and the Bucks, and MJF versus Brandon Cutler, and a screen lowers with MJF on the screen. And we get just fantastic segment here where MJF goes from spitting his coffee out at the name of Brandon Cutler being uttered into his assistant, who he nicknamed Tons of Fun, and goes on to mock Brandon Cutler for his crying over receiving a contract, and then cuts a promo about Cutler that he's just an average guy with an average wife and kids, and you're like the people. You could be their neighbor. That's fine, but you're not great like me. I've never been average. I win at everything. And this guy knocked it out of the park.
Completely.
What a great promo.
Completely. Between this and being the elite, this was certainly like a great week to showcase MJF's incredible ability. And I think already he's become one of the top stars. But once that TV show becomes a weekly thing, I think his stock will quickly rise. But in a segment like this, not only did he manage to promote himself and the match, but managed to promote Brandon Cutler, reminding the audience why we should cheer for him. He is the everyman, and that's absolutely right. He did a great job, like a better job of making Brandon Cutler seem like a great babyface than Brandon Cutler did himself on being the elite this week. So great job from them. I like clearly what they're going for is the old Control Center segments, like you saw with Sean Mooney. You have the host there, throw to a promo, extended promo from like a wrestler just talking to the camera, and this I thought was very effective. Are
you saying when we have a cage match, we'll have all the guys behind a fence?
Sure.
I always love those.
Maybe like in front of like the same lockers every single week. I don't know.
Oh, with the phone.
I will say it was a little weird to see like MJF in front of like a green screened version of his house. Like with like a virtual fireplace and all that. That might have been a little bit much. But the idea is simply just, to get a wrestler to cut a promo, and I thought that was very effective. I could have done without like some of the Tony Schiavone trying to act like, oh no, what's that? Really? Seriously, right now? I gotta talk to him? That I thought was a little unnecessary, but the rest I thought was very good.
See, I'm really curious to see, because once MJF is on TNT, I see this guy being someone that gets a lot of spotlight and attention from outside media companies or just people wanting to speak with this guy. And I think there's certainly a way to send this guy out there, because I'm always kind of negative on when you go to like real outlets and stuff and you're in character. But I think this guy going Like, imagine this guy going to like a major sports talk radio station anywhere, New York, Boston, and that guy just sits in with the sports hosts and just runs down callers and shit. Like, there are a lot of media opportunities where this guy can stay in character and still get across, because I've marveled at how this guy has been able to pretty much walk that, not even walk that line. Like, he is this character no matter what, and it's definitely worked for him. It hasn't, to me, shut out opportunities for him. He's made them work.
I think the difference is because he's so good at the character that I think anything that he can come up with while in character might actually be more interesting than him talking out of character, which I personally don't really care to see. So, like, I think
it depends the outlet. Like, I think if you're putting him in a situation where it's like the hosts are in on it, but him sitting in and doing a podcast with us, like, I don't think anyone would be interested in that. But I feel that in the right scenarios,
I disagree. I think there's a fun way. It's very much like, if you had an interview with like somebody who's like a broken Matt Hardy. Like, I think it would be like when broken Matt Hardy was actually like, really, really popular. But I think it's an exercise to see how he will improvise. And he's one of the best at it right now.
And then to close out the show, they went over the brackets for the tag title tournament. So we're going to get the Young Bucks against Private Party, which will be on the October 9th when the tournament starts. And then on their side, it'll be the Lucha Brothers against Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. So confirming Phoenix and Pentagon are in the tournament. And then on the other side, it'll be SCU versus the Best Friends, while the Dark Order receive a bye on that side, and they'll face the winner of SCU and Best Friends. And the tournament will wrap up on the October 30th episode. So we've got 4 episodes that this will take place over.
Mm-hmm. It looks good. I'll say, like, I think in the months that they've really done a great job of establishing this tag team division where I think all those teams have left some sort of impression. I think they're all pretty much like, they're all really popular except for the Dark Order. And you're not even, you can skip that match because they have a bye into the next round. So, but Jurassic Express, I think will get a great reaction. SCU, of course. The Best Friends, I feel like they have to do a little bit more work with, but I think they'll get there. And of course, Penta and Phoenix and the Bucks.
Yeah, and I guess the major team that are left out are Santana and Ortiz right now. That
right.
Maybe can, will spin off maybe with the Bucks.
Yeah, well, they could potentially be the mystery opponents.
Could be. Yeah, you could do that. So anyway, another really good episode, I thought, of Road 2 this week. And I think that if we're comparing to tonight's final hard push for NXT's debut, I've got to say, I think they've done a much better job promoting the first AEW show than NXT did the first week on USA.
Is this the right basis of comparison, though, or would a better comparison be tomorrow's NXT?
In terms of they're trying to...
Given the outlet, given, like, the medium?
Well, I'm just saying, like, NXT's first episode on USA is tomorrow. So in terms of just anticipation for a first episode, yeah, I think...
Sorry, I guess I meant last week's WWE Network NXT.
Okay, well, if we're using that, I still feel like they've done a better job on AEW of promoting this first show. Like if... Like I would say if AEW were launching tomorrow night, I would feel very strongly that they would have the lion's share of the attention tomorrow night.
Yeah, we shall see. I feel like I think we'll get some really accurate ideas of maybe how out of the bubble AEW is, how many people are paying attention to these Road 2s, or if it's just like us and the people that listen to the shows like this. Yeah,
we are going to find out. It'll be very interesting to see all of these numbers play out over the next couple of weeks. But let's get into SmackDown. Went down Tuesday night from the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. And it started out with the New Day taking on Randy Orton and the Revival. Very long match between the two sides. Big E splashed Wilder onto the apron, double teamed with Xavier Woods using a wheelbarrow slam. And then Wilder kicked the injured knee of Xavier Woods and they took over. And New Day eventually fired up. They cleaned house. Kofi was in. Orton ducked a Trouble in Paradise. We go to our first commercial. They come back. They're in control of Woods. They're attacking the knee further. And then Wilder is cutting him off. He's crawling to his corner. Orton then dumps Xavier onto the desk for our second commercial break. Kingston gets the tag afterwards, hits the SOS on Orton, but Dawson makes the save, and everyone's just running wild. Wilder hits a tornado DDT onto Big E on the floor. They yank Xavier Woods by the leg. Everyone's down. Kingston is going for his big trust dive, but he's cut off by Orton, who sends him onto the ropes for a draping DDT, and he's setting up for the RKO, but instead tags in Wilder, and they're going for the super RKO, but Big E pulls Orton to the floor, sends him into the post, and Kingston hits a double DDT to the Revival. Xavier Woods, who got, I guess, a regenerated knee during one of the commercial breaks, climbs onto the top, leaps across the ring with his elbow drop, and then Kingston ducks a clothesline, Trouble in Paradise onto Scott Dawson, and gets the pin. 17 minutes and 31 seconds. This six-man tag goes.
It was a very long TV match. And, I was actually a little surprised that they would even do this match on the show, because I think you and I, somebody might have proposed that this could potentially be a match that they might set up for a bigger show down the line. But, for TV, it's fine, especially seeing that this was the blow-off to this feud. Yep. At least what seemed to be. It was very textbook. I thought pretty effective with Woods, doing well selling that injury. And I feel like, Dawson eating the pin was fine. That team is really not going to sink any lower. And he took a pin.
They're only the tag champions.
But at least he took a pin from the world champion, right? So yeah. I was fine with how all this turned out.
It was a good six-man. I mean, looking at SummerSlam, Clash of Champions, I'll take this six-man over either of those two singles matches.
I agree, yeah.
So New Day is in the ring celebrating, and Brock Lesnar's music plays, and he comes out with Paul Heyman. Kofi sends Big E and Xavier Woods out of the ring. I don't know where these men went to. Did they just stand there this whole time?
I don't know.
They just disappeared. They had one of those, you're not supposed to think of them.
Sorry, are you talking about Revival and Orton?
No, I'm talking about Big E and Xavier Woods. He told them to leave the ring.
Yeah.
But did we see them walk past Lesnar and go up? I thought they just kind of stayed there.
They must have exited through another way. Yeah.
They went to exit somewhere. So Brock and Heyman confront Kofi, and Heyman says that they stand in the way of the longevity of Kofi's title reign, and it's a bad day for the New Day. Yes, it is. Which Heyman said, I wish Lesnar had said. They issue the challenge to Kofi Kingston for a WWE Championship match Friday, October the 4th on the Friday Night SmackDown premiere on Fox. Kofi accepts the challenge, and for his efforts, takes an F5 and is left laying, as they have set up a very big match for the debut on Fox and Brock Lesnar's first match on WWE television since March of 2004.
And probably not that far from his first match on SmackDown. Or his last match on SmackDown, I mean.
That was a SmackDown match.
Oh.
So 15 years ago that he was on SmackDown the last time.
It's a very big match to give away on TV. This was potentially a program that I think some of us wanted to see at a SummerSlam, maybe even potentially at a WrestleMania. But you can argue that this TV show coming up on that Friday is going to be more important than any pay-per-view that they're going to have this year. So I thought it was a good way to inform your audience about SmackDown's move to Fox on a Friday. And Heyman did a great job here. Not only did he, propose the match, but also specifically stated the date. This was really the first episode where we saw the hard push towards Fox. And, this was probably the best way that they could get that announcement out there.
Yeah, it's no secret. The Fox show is absolutely super important for them. I was told this idea with Lesnar was in the works for a long, long time. They've had this in mind for a long time at this point. So it wasn't a case of just oh, shoot, we're on Fox in a couple of weeks, so let's come up with something. This had been thought out for quite some time, and they ended up going through with it. So it's a big deal having Brock Lesnar wrestle on TV. It's a match that I think a lot of people will be intrigued by, and I mean, the importance of getting off to a strong foot on Fox greatly overshadows Hell in a Cell or any of the pay-per-views. So I thought this this is a match to me that's going to have a lot of buzz attached to it. And I think that people will naturally believe that there's the chance that we could see a title change as well on this Fox debut.
If the goal is to maybe generate buzz to get people talking about, hey, this new edition of SmackDown that's on Fridays now on Fox, I would actually lean towards something like that. Just something to make headlines so that people are aware that this show is now on Fox on Fridays. And I think having Brock Lesnar really, like, at this point, as far as, your active roster goes, if Cena's not available, if Ronda's not available, like, Brock is probably your most mainstream star. It makes perfect sense to me.
Could you see a scenario where Brock wins this title and they keep the titles to, like, the WWE title stays on SmackDown and that locks in Lesnar on SmackDown?
Yes. But, I mean, what does that mean? It's Brock Lesnar. So locked in, it means what? He'll show up once every 3 months?
I mean, who knows what this means? I mean, does this open the door that we could see the occasional Lesnar match a few times a year on Fox as something to build up to a big episode on Fox as opposed to on USA?
I feel like from what we've seen of, like, the way that WWE treats, like, anytime they go to a new station, there's a great deal of, I think, emphasis put on the first couple episodes, and then inevitably it'll kind of drift kind of back to normal, and we'll continue to get like the status quo of. So I don't necessarily see them like doing something like this again, unless they're facing a really stiff competition and it's a really important week for them to get that number up. But I personally don't see it, but who knows like what the game is going to be like. Maybe they'll be in a panic mode 6 months from now, and they'll be facing another football game, and I don't know if football goes that long, but it doesn't, right? Football ends January.
February is
okay, whatever. Anyway, so I don't see it right now, but maybe, who knows if circumstances are dire, perhaps.
The timing is important too, because this is happening on October the 4th, and that next Saudi Arabia card is October 31st, and Lesnar's been on all of those cards. So You could also do something and come back with a rematch, whether it be Lesnar wins and Kofi gets a rematch in Saudi Arabia, but I would imagine Brock wrestling on that Saudi Arabia card a couple weeks after this.
For sure.
So, I thought this was done really well, and I'm glad they did it now and not waiting another week. This gives you 2.5 weeks to really promote this, so I thought this was very effectively done. Kayla Braxton interviews Bayley and Sasha Banks backstage. Banks says she's the star of the division. She's already been in a Hell in a Cell match. Becky has not. And Bayley says that Sasha will answer all the questions in the ring when she takes on her rival Charlotte Flair tonight. And today, Charlotte and her father, Ric Flair, did this Q&A for Cricket Wireless on Facebook. And I got to see about half of it. And you apparently watched the whole thing?
I did, yeah. John sent me a link to this because you were...
There was an incredibly awkward moment in the middle of this where Rick is just being Rick, and he's telling all these stories about Charlotte, and Charlotte is furious and just does not want Rick to be telling more stories about them.
The story in question was something about like Charlotte, following Rick around when like they were simply like when Charlotte was just a kid following her dad around, and they were in Japan, and Charlotte asked.
I found the story.
Oh, please.
Okay, so it's addressed in the Second Nature book that Rick and Charlotte and Brian Shields put out a few years ago, and it's a very underrated book. If you it's very honest by the standards of a WWE released book. I definitely recommend it. But anyway, it's the story in question. I think this is from 2005, and Ashley, Charlotte, went over with Rick for a tour in Japan with WWE, and Charlotte went out one night to Roppongi with The Undertaker, Rey Mysterio, Victoria, and Tori Wilson. And the way the book is done, half of it's Rick's part for half the book, and it's Charlotte's part for another half. So this is in Charlotte's words that she went with them, and that was it. Like, they went out, and then they took a cab home, and she didn't indicate like anything that you would think. So I don't know. I don't know if there's some story beyond beyond that. This was 2005, so
she would have been 19 or potentially 18.
How old is she right now? She's
33.
33, so this was 14 years ago or so. So this would have been around 19, roughly.
Okay. Well, for some reason, she was quite embarrassed and wanted an end to Flair. But like
She seemed more embarrassed than she was like he was going to tell some story that would get her in trouble.
Right.
She just felt like your classic like dad.
Well, that's what I found so fascinating was like getting a glimpse of like this is Charlotte Flair and this is Ric Flair, and like anybody, whenever their parents might show up to work or whenever your parents might have showed up to school to pick you up, telling stories and trying to like socialize with your friends, it is the most embarrassing in the world. And it was fun for me to see like this kind of like squirm type of
You
squirming.
love this stuff, dude. I couldn't even. It was so uncomfortable.
It wasn't cringy. I thought it was adorable.
Oh, I thought it was just, dude, I don't, awkwardness is just like, I can't, I had to stop. I was just like,
thought it was cute.
Too awkward to watch.
That like anybody, Charlotte, it gets embarrassed whenever her dad like talks about her, except her dad is Ric Flair. And she even talked about how, when she started off on the main roster, she had to work with her dad all the time. And it sounded like, we kind of look back at that as like sort of oh, that's kind of cute. It's like Charlotte and her dad like managing her. How adorable. But like from the way she described it, I'm sure she looks back at it fondly too. But I'm sure there was also quite a bit of like, oh my God, my dad's like on this tour bus with all of us and he's talking about me. And I'm trying to be cool with like the boys. So that I found pretty interesting. I found it a little awkward off the top, because like Charlie like asked some question about like, oh, what does it mean to be like, in the WWE or something like that. And knowing what Rick is, recently appeared on TMZ for, talking about the whole, the man lawsuit, like he kind of danced around the subject and he just kind of got into it himself where he's like, the WWE are my family. We've been through a lot of ups and downs. Hopefully more ups than downs, and then just kind of like progress. But I was actually...
We should clarify that there isn't a lawsuit, but it is, he's talked about like filing for the trademark over it, but it's, I assume like none of that was brought up in all of this.
No.
I didn't see the final 10 minutes. I didn't think, well, knowing Ric Flair, I can totally see him just going and just being very transparent about everything that's going on, but I assume that was avoided.
Well, thing is, I was actually surprised that he not only appeared on this, although like this could be a separate deal with them in Cricket
Wireless,
but I mean he appeared on SmackDown itself.
Yeah, he was showing tonight. Didn't come out with Charlotte, but they did a backstage cutaway with him with Charlotte. So, yeah,
so maybe things aren't that bad.
I got up until the point where they talked about how they just text back and forth emojis.
I was really surprised at like how much like Ric Flair seems to know about emojis. He said he used like the smiley face and the bicep recently.
So anyway, Charlotte is going to be taking on Sasha later on. They recapped Erick Rowan's win over Roman Reigns, and we get the sit down with Michael Cole and Erick Rowan towering over Michael Cole wearing his Cannibal Corpse shirt.
You know that band?
I do know Cannibal Corpse.
Cool.
Do you?
I've heard of them. I've not heard of a song of theirs.
Rowan is stunned that Michael Cole even knows his name. He is not going to answer questions about Luke Harper. And Michael Cole, in the most calm manner, says that some people called your attacks attempted manslaughter. Rowan defended himself, saying, I was just trying to scare him. Cole yelled, you were trying to kill him. To which I guess some people meant Michael Cole. Rowan won't let anyone speak for him any longer, and he's not going to lower his tone. He's not a goon or a puppet. He's a leader. Michael Cole says, why did you betray Daniel Bryan after all the opportunities he gave you? And Rowan said, I am far superior mentally and physically than Daniel Bryan, which is a hell of a statement because I look at Daniel Bryan as pretty mentally, very enhanced mentally. He's a smart guy.
We don't know much about Erick Rowan, so I mean, I'm sure you tried to make wine before.
It does take a level of sophistication that we maybe do not give proper credit to Erick Rowan for. But he will never be disrespected again, and that concluded our sit-down interview with Erick Rowan, a fascinating individual.
You know, Rowan certainly came across far better in this setting than he did last week in front of a live audience, and I think baby steps are important right now, and it seems like they're actually serious about pushing Erick Rowan as a leader, as
his gimmick is he's not going to be quiet anymore. So whether you're a fan of his talking or not, it seems like that's going to be a huge part, is like this guy doing a lot of talking. Like that's the big basis of his character, that he's been muted for all this time.
I also took this to, really further tie up, I guess, loose ends of this terrible, terrible storyline. Where
was Cole the journalist asking about the state of this twin?
Sure, or who was driving the forklift, like a bunch of other things. They could. I thought for sure they would have just like named Luke Harper the other guy, but I guess anyway, it doesn't matter at this point. But I think this was further done to show that yes, he was responsible, and to like drive all doubt that Daniel Bryan was ultimately a part, behind all this, out of the audience's mind. So, yeah, I don't know. I found it still a little over the top for me, but in wrestling, like that might not be that bad.
Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ali was scheduled next, and Sami Zayn comes out. He's still got the neck brace. He's demanding respect. He says that, Ali, when you beat Nakamura a few weeks ago, that was before I had joined Nakamura. He is no longer the same man. And just for everyone looking for the chronology, a few weeks ago was July the 30th that Ali pinned Shinsuke Nakamura. And he said Ali will never be a champion. And Nakamura cheap shots Ali with a knee from to the back of the head, drives Ali into the buckle, and then left him laying with a Kinshasa. So the match never starts, but it looks like Ali is finally getting his program with Nakamura, and we're moving on from The Miz.
Right. He beat The Miz, right? Yeah. He did.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So.
Well, yeah, I think that's for the better. I think this will probably be a higher quality match. Depending on how many shenanigans I think we get from Sami Zayn, I think Sami Zayn is really talented, and he's been actually really entertaining. Like, I found him here. Like, he drove this segment. The segment was really all him, and I thought he was really funny. But hopefully, like, when it comes time for the bell to bell, they'll leave this alone.
It's going to be interesting if they keep Nakamura and Zayn together after the draft, or they decide to just separate them.
Don't you think it's too early for them to give up on this?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that's going to kind of tell the tale. Do they think this is working or not?
The problem is, what else do you do with Nakamura? Because clearly they don't have that much confidence in him speaking. Unless he gets the subtitle treatment, which I'm not.
I was going to say there's this woman named Rio,
or there is a tag team named the AOP, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious for them to at least give that a shot, but I think they are at least slightly, it seems like they're pretty invested in this Zayn Nakamura tandem right now.
Maybe we'll get the authors of Zayn, and we're going to get subtitles for all of these guys.
Including Sami Zayn?
Maybe, yes.
Oh.
Kevin Owens comes through the crowd. He takes a seat. Shane McMahon is watching this backstage, and referee John Cone comes in to tell him someone is here to see you. And in the most unintentionally hilarious line, tells Shane that Kevin Owens has also arrived, as he's watching Owens in the crowd, and Shane just looks at the screen and says, "Really?" That's the kind of comedy I enjoy. That's just like very subtle, but was just delivered so well, and it just lets the joke sink on the viewer at home, and I laughed. I thought this was really funny.
We all find enjoyment in different things.
It's just John Cohen said this like with such authority, like he was informing Shane of some big reveal, like Kevin Owens has also arrived. Thanks, dumbass. So Shane walks out, and he is served with legal papers.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a trademark notice from another person at the arena today, and he's going to have to bill himself as Shane Mick.
Shane Mick. Yes, I get it. Yes. Nice.
Sometimes you say the joke, you let it land in its own time.
Somebody out there probably laughed really, really heartily.
Kevin Owens, Owens is cheering from his seat. He's chanting SmackDown. When Shane comes out, Corey Graves said putting Kevin Owens on camera increases his independent value. So cut away from him. Graves has had quite the week. I think once he got Beta Cuck out there, he realized I can do anything.
Oh yeah, he's leaning into it. Absolutely.
He is, because it had been reported that Vince McMahon was not there on Monday night, so maybe Corey Graves without Vince McMahon in his ears feels much more freer, where maybe there would be other times that he would think that Beta Cuck might not be what I'm not gonna shoot my shot with that particular line tonight.
Would Vince McMahon be aware of like even just why that would be controversial?
I don't know. I don't know if that would be one of my questions if I ever spoke with Vince McMahon and asked him his awareness of. Kevin Owens is invited into the ring with Shane, and Shane informs us that he has been served with the largest wrongful termination lawsuit in history. I'm looking for people to look this up for verification, because I am sure that there have been wrongful termination lawsuits that would be at or above this level, but please inform us. He says that if he loses this, Owens could be awarded $25 million.
I think their concept of like dollar figures really fascinates me. Like when they're coming out with these bullshit, like, dollar amounts, they have to think of like numbers that sound big enough to like your average viewer.
Wait a minute. We just saw Becky fine $10,000.
I mean, so it wasn't that intense, but like $100,000 for attacking the referee. That I guess, it fits the balance of being life-changing and also, I don't know, makes you feel sympathetic for the person who has to suffer from that. 25, I don't know. I'm very curious to know how they come up with these amounts.
Okay. You can't make this up, okay? So I looked up the largest wrongful termination verdicts, okay? And the site I came across is the largest wrongful termination verdicts in California. So there was a case in 2017, Babiak versus Cardiovascular Systems. Plaintiff, an excellent salesperson, complained that other salespeople were breaking FDA law by promoting CSI's leg catheter for use in heart arteries, which it didn't have FDA approval for. CSI, stick with me, Wai, retaliated by demoting, increasing his quota, taking away good territory, and then firing him. The award was for compensatory and punitive damages. Do you know what he was awarded, Wai?
$25 million.
$25,100,000.
So evidently, maybe some research went into making up this amount.
But they should have increased. They should have gone above it. Owen should have been suing them for $25.2 million.
I guess we don't know the rest of the numbers. Maybe they added a.
This is only California. So anyway, there's one at least in California that debunks this as the largest one ever. California woman awarded $167 million in employer retaliation case. So maybe Owens wasn't even scratching the surface here. Anyway. So the case is laid out here by Shane McMahon, and Owens calls him a dumbass. Shane says, you have a weak case. Owens disagrees. He says Shane has ruined SmackDown by making it his personal playground, and said, I might have put my hands on Elias, but then last week I was a referee and I was attacked by you, and you put your hands on an official. The crowd starts chanting, you tapped out, referencing the loss to Chad Gable last week, and said, Kevin Owens tried to work with Shane, but now you're trying to affect my life's work and affect my family. And now I just want to hurt you. But I know where I'm going to hurt you, where it hurts most, in your wallet and with your pride. Because there's another clause in this lawsuit, and I guarantee that the woman in California or this other employer in California didn't have to deal with, that if Shane wins his case, he can enter this ring, and in front of the WWE Universe, he can tell Shane McMahon, your universe. It's the alternate reality that Shane is fired. And Owens leaves through the crowd. And why do I have a feeling, Wai, that this is going to be a lawsuit settled in the ring?
Because that's how cases like this usually pan out. All wrongful terminations result in a match at Hell in a Cell, don't they? Or Fox, I don't know. Whatever.
Where would you put this? Because I think I could definitely see this happening on Fox as opposed to Hell in a Cell.
Yeah. I mean, with it being 2 weeks away,
with Shane McMahon's job on the line, I
Sure.
could definitely see them doing this on TV as opposed to on the pay-per-view. Like, I really feel this Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, it's almost unfortunate, the timing of it, that it's here, but I mean, it is what it is. It's just, it's a show that should not be prioritized above Fox.
yeah, I think there's sound arguments for both, but if your priority is Fox, then throw all the best shit on Fox. Why not? I'd love to be able to speak to like any listener out there who might be a lawyer who would be able to try to help us analyze whether or not this in any way, shape, or form is valid at all in just because it comes really across to me like a 6-year-old's understanding of the legal system. And I'm really curious to hear a professional's opinion on just how this was laid out.
Yeah, maybe this is Vince McMahon's interpretation of the Purdue Pharma case that's going on right now.
Sure,
for people that were hooked on OxyContin. Anyway, so we're building up to a very big payoff here with Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon, and I kind of had the sense, like, coming out of SummerSlam, like, this is where it would go. Like, Owens had his career on the line, and it's always been about Shane ruining SmackDown, that this feels like this is going to be the big blow-off of Shane's job at stake against Kevin Owens. So, yeah it's... I would imagine if it's going to be on Fox, like, you got to set that up, but I would say by next week, absolutely, at the latest.
Do you think Owens did enough to explain his justification for siding with Shane last week?
No, I didn't think. I think that was really handled badly last week. And I mean, the explanation was, I tried to work with you, but
I tried to work with you. I was thinking about my family. Like, that's pretty much what he said for turning on Chad Gable.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
after seeing this, I'm sure like last week, it felt really dire, but like, if he had went to NXT like he had teased without resolving this, I think I would have been really upset. But the fact that this seems to suggest he might be giving Shane some level of comeuppance, I think coming out of it, Owens will be perfectly fine.
I think ultimately he beat Shane. He gets the storyline credit for kicking Shane off TV. I think it's like, it's a clean slate at that point, and you bring Kevin Owens back, because what Kevin Owens has is he's a great promo, and he is over to this crowd, and it's not like he's fighting the current or anything like that. I think the audience wants to be behind this guy, but man, this guy has had to maneuver some terrible babyface booking since SummerSlam that at least tonight was a solid step forward in that sense.
And I certainly feel like after, the past couple weeks, we can really shelve the comparisons to Stone Cold Steve Austin with this current incarnation of Kevin Owens, because I don't think, not only would Austin never do what Owens did last week.
If you want me to file a wrongful termination lawsuit with a hidden clause,
I don't see Austin doing that ever either. So this is clearly a very different character. Maybe we should just stop with the comparisons now.
Well, then take the stunner away, because they really invite those comparisons. We get the shot here of Charlotte getting ready with her father in the back, but that was it. I thought for sure Rick was coming out with him, especially given the celebrity that they had here. But they re-aired the AOP promo, and then we cut to the ring, and the rapper Offset is all decked out in a Ric Flair robe. The man behind the Ric Flair drip was here. And I thought, like, this, like, sometimes they really shoehorn these celebrities in, but what a great call to have him here. And this felt like this is just a great little add-on here. I just wish we got a thing with, like, Offset and Ric Flair together for one interaction.
Me too. Especially, the fact that they told us he was there backstage. I wonder what that says. I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's even not that much to look into it. Maybe, but I think it would have ultimately perhaps benefited Charlotte to like be seen with the three of them together. So anyway, whatever. But this was cool. Yeah, he looked great in the robe.
Charlotte came out, gave Offset a hug, and then we had the match with Sasha and Charlotte Flair. A long time since they've had a singles match together. Bayley was in the corner. They quickly go through the break. Flair did the flip over in the corner and then booted Sasha from the apron. They go over their own history, having a Hell in a Cell match together. Banks tried a Hurricane Rana, but it was blocked and turned into a Boston Crab, and Banks got out of that and cradled Charlotte for a 2 count. Banks is sent off the apron with a boot. Flair then climbs and hits the top rope moonsault to the floor onto both Sasha and Bayley. And then Flair gets up from a roll through in the ring, applies the figure 4. She's preparing for the figure 8 when Bayley attacks her for the disqualification at 7:51.
I thought the match was good. I really quite enjoyed it. I mean, I almost forget now that these two had so many matches together and that I was pretty sick of them by that point. But both characters feel very different now. I thought
they pretty much have stayed away for like most of 2018, as I recall, and all of this year. So It's been like you're going back to like 2017 and before that when they were kind of in the heat of just all of those singles matches and title changes.
Sasha's always been on Raw and Charlotte's been on SmackDown ever since.
Right.
I thought a good job from both women here. And then we get into the post-match.
Post-match sees Bayley and Sasha beating down Charlotte, and Carmella runs down to help out Charlotte, shoves down Bayley, hits Banks with a super kick, and then Flair hits Bayley with a running boot. And it just kind of felt weird. Like it was like Carmella was in the Becky Lynch spot. And I guess just wanting to get Carmella a spot and aligning her with Charlotte Flair. Because the thinking may have been for the pay-per-view that we needed to have Charlotte and Becky have this moment together, but we don't really want to have them as friends at this point, and we'll just insert Carmella here. And maybe keep Charlotte and Becky apart.
Yeah, you think so?
I don't know. I'm trying to just guess like why Carmella here versus like this was a role that just seemed so like designed for Becky to repay the favor of Charlotte coming to help her.
Yeah, who knows what I think the reason is. It certainly would have made more sense. And I think the crowd was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't Becky because it was certainly set up to feel like it was supposed to be Becky.
Or Rick running out.
That would have, or Offset running out for the save.
Any of those. Carmella was not in everyone's top 3.
For sure. But I'm also happy to see Carmella, get a spot though, because I feel like this, main event scene has kind of been dominated by the same people for a while now. So I think Carmella kind of deserves a shot.
Then we had Baron Corbin's coronation segment, and Corey Graves says that I've got a great rapport with the king, and I'm not talking about that bum from Memphis.
Ooh.
And he puts on the cape and crown. He exemplifies everything it takes to be king. He's generous and fair. He won the tournament with honor. And then he calls out Chad Gable to acknowledge him. And this just led to a procession of short jokes. It's mighty big of you to come out here tonight. You've been overlooked. You came up short last night. Gable finally snaps and attacks him. Is Chad Gable Bagel Boss?
I mean,
like it seems like here's the little guy who has a short fuse. And that seems to be the inspiration for Chad Gable.
I think he's not as obnoxious as Bagel Boss, and I think he's more likable than Bagel Boss, like, because he sulks, he like feels bad whenever these jokes are made, whereas Bagel Boss would just like yell at you and, not take any shit.
What's a better nickname, Shorty G or Gable Boss? Gable Boss.
Gable Boss.
You literally can spell bagel out of Gable.
Wow. You blew my mind.
I think I'm really onto something here. Like literally, Gable, you can spell bagel with.
Yes. Wow.
Gable Boss.
Gable Boss. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if Chad Gable can promo like the Bagel Boss. As a heel.
I don't think so. Do you know that the Bagel Boss has been training with Chris Weidman and Ally Aquinta?
Yes, unfortunately.
It's some celebrity that they're like building up some fight with him.
Well, Bagel Boss would be a perfect fit into this Maria Kanellis, Mike Kanellis, Beta Cuck storyline. So I don't know. Maybe we're talking about him too much, I feel, in a wrestling show.
They plugged NXT for Wednesday night and Roderick Strong, Velveteen Dream, which is really like the only match they're pushing for USA because Matt Riddle and Killian Dane is on the second hour. I don't think they've stated if the 4-way between the women is going to be on USA or on the network. You would think for an hour you need at least 2 matches on there. So anyway, Yeah, it was funny. I put out a poll asking people what they thought Wednesday is going to do that first hour, going anywhere from 700,000 to over 900. And it seems like everyone's divided on like what this show is going to do. I got some people who think it's gonna hit 1 million. I got others thinking it's gonna be under 700,000. I'm predicting it's gonna be around 800 is my prediction.
How much did that special do the last time they were on TV?
Oh, I don't have the figure. I want to say like around 850, but don't quote me on that. I think around that. And that was like not heavily promoted. It was on, I believe it was on a Wednesday night, and that was around 2017. I think it
was December 13th, 2017, 841,000, and that was with very minimal promotion on, in December, like certainly far less than even this. So
yeah, we're gonna see. Maybe I'm low. Maybe I'm low.
Yeah.
What's your official prediction?
I'm gonna say
850. That's my prediction.
I'm gonna say I'll go 9.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I don't think people should freak out. Whatever the number is.
It's also 2017, which might be very different from how ratings are right now.
Well, it's it's gotten a good level of promotion, but I wouldn't say it's been like they've hit you over the head with this.
I think the promotion honestly hasn't really come from the bodies of the shows themselves. It's been the talk online, like on shows like ours, on websites, on forums, on Twitter, and this whole AEW thing. People are aware that this is the debut, but it's not from watching Raw or SmackDown. It's from being, in these types of circles online.
Yeah. I mean, that AEW countdown show doing 300,000 viewers for a nothing Friday night slot. I mean, that to me is telling that there's that makes me pretty optimistic about the hunger for an AEW audience. And maybe tomorrow night we're going to see something, a really strong, audience for it. But I will say, for like, we keep talking about maybe the big push is more for October 2nd, but man, think of that week debuting on Fox. Like, you can't be promoting all this different stuff. And I think that it's like that show on October 2nd, it's going to be tough to be heavily promoting Fox and NXT that same week. And they're going to have a lot of things to juggle that week. Forget the pay-per-view that Sunday.
It's a good point. And I guess it would be more so the job of NXT itself to kind of promote its own big show coming up on the 2nd.
Then we had Heavy Machinery against the B Team. Otis is now wearing trunks.
The Gable.
He just he attacked Corbin, tore off the robe, attacked him with the scepter, destroyed the set, and then for the big moment, stomped on Baron's crown and got a big pop here after milking the audience until he stomped on the crown. So does this mean Baron is not going to have the king attire? Was it all destroyed here by Chad Gable? Is that what this was to signify?
I would say so. Has a king ever remade a crown following a destruction? Maybe they have. I don't think he needs it. I think, honestly, I'm a little surprised that they even. I just think it's a little goofy, and I certainly don't see him give him a trophy. Give him the Edge's trophy or whatever. But I thought the destruction was actually done really well. It was very satisfying to see Chad Gable do a double leg into the throne and have the throne smash into a million pieces. I thought, and the way they set up the stomping on the crown, I thought that was all done really well. I still have to ask, after all this though, is Chad Gable, in a better spot doing this, or would it have been better to actually give him the tournament win?
Well, I look at it from this way, especially you're eliminating all the King stuff. I really don't see Corbin being to me, this tournament, it's valued by you're creating someone that can now pivot to a main event program. And I don't see Corbin doing that. Mm-hmm. And at the end of this month-long tournament, what does Baron Corbin get out of this, as opposed, not throwing out the fact that I think he greatly benefited in other ways from this tournament, but tangibly within the body of the show.
Yeah.
If you're not doing the King gimmick, what has he just won, and could this have been more valuable to somebody else?
Well, this really, if it doesn't last, and considering that it's Baron Corbin who's done stuff like this, won things like this in the past, this could ultimately mean little more than the Andre Battle Royal or
which Baron has also won.
Yes, or the greatest Royal Rumble. At least you can look towards like Shane McMahon winning the crown jewel thing with some type of like positivity since he's run with that gimmick for so long. But I don't know, because Baron Corbin's been through all this and he hasn't really been elevated after those things. Again, like how much more would this have benefited somebody like a Ricochet or even Samoa Joe?
Yeah, King Ricochet was like a natural to go to.
Looks good in a crown, you know?
Yeah, if you even want to go that way, and it's
he could make a crown look cool, I think. I don't know about Baron Corbin though, or Shorty G,
or Gable Boss.
I love it, Gable Boss.
Heavy Machinery in the B team. Otis is now wearing trunks as opposed to the singlet look. They double teamed Otis. He fought back. Tom Phillips brought up a great point during this match. We could see these two teams separated in the draft.
So is that really the case? Because that hasn't been the case for these shakeups.
Well, that's what Tom Phillips said. I wonder if that stuff has even been decided upon right now. Do teams stay together or can teams be separated?
There are no teams there like currently that I would want to see separated. Even the B team, because I think those two guys on their own, like there's nothing for them. They would just be forgotten about.
I'm trying to think right now, like of your tag teams at the moment. Yeah, you don't want to be breaking up the Usos. You don't like you just put Rude and Ziggler together. The Authors should be together. Heavy Machinery should be together. Viking Raiders should be together.
I can't think of a single team.
The Revival, the New Day.
Asuka and Kairi Sane maybe, but they're barely even a team right now.
I'm not familiar with them. I only watch WWE.
Fire and Desire, maybe I'd want to break up just so that they stop doing the mashup entrance with their entrance themes.
Listen, it's whatever they decide. If they think, hey, we've got a strong idea for one of these people, then they're going to separate a team. If not, then they won't.
Could they be looking at an Otis single run?
I don't know if you'd get much more out of him as a singles run versus him with Tucker. Like, I think there's certainly a great, like, this guy is a tremendous babyface for house shows, almost in that Rikishi role, and not just because he's big, but just he gets like an energy out of the crowd.
Very charismatic.
I don't think him on his own is any more valuable than him in this presentation with Tucker. And I would definitely worry about Tucker if he got separated from Otis.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's possible, but I don't think in the long run it would be a difference maker for either guy and probably would hinder them. Final segment saw Daniel Bryan come out, and his walk down the ring was the babyface turn. I guess the choke slam kind of signaled, but This was confirmation. He's now a babyface because we've given now Erick Rowan credit for the attacks, the attempted murder. Mm-hmm. He says some people chanting my name were accusing me of being behind the attacks on Roman Reigns, and I understand why. Good or bad, I have never lied to you people. He stands before them exonerated of all the heinous acts, and he is here to speak about Erick Rowan. He saw Erick Rowan. He saw his potential, his talent, and how intelligent and special he was. And he treated Rowan as his equal and his friend because he is my friend. Still saying this in the present tense. Rowan comes out and he tells Dan to stop. He says he always stood behind him, never spoke. Well, he won't be disrespected any longer. Bryan says there is nothing you could do worse to me than lie, and challenges him to do something when Luke Harper jumps Dan from behind and they double team him. This leads to Roman Reigns coming out to a total babyface reaction. He ducks Harper, Superman punch to Rowan, then he drops Harper, drive-by is delivered to Rowan, but then turns into a boot from Harper, and Rowan and Harper just go to town. They beat down security, they slam security onto the exposed floor. Roman Reigns gets powerbombed into the post, and then they clear the desk and give the big double chokeslam to Bryan, putting him through the table, and Reigns and Bryan are left laying. Very strong angle to end the show.
Also, poor Tom Phillips. Poor guy got like thrown into like something and just like ended up laying there for like the rest of the show. Really good destruction at the end here. Very intense from the Bludgeon Brothers, which they haven't called them yet.
No, it's just Erick Rowan and Luke Harper.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really a really good angle, and what I was worried about was that this was going to be presented with Daniel Bryan as kind of is he really turning, or is this all a ruse? And I think this really did feel like they are turning Bryan, but we'll see. I mean, I don't want Roman Reigns to be in a position where he kind of looks the fool at the end of all of this, but we could see they could either just use this as the time to
look like fools coming out of this.
Well, I think for this draft, like, you do need some main event baby faces badly. And Daniel Bryan's a phenomenal heel, but he's also like a guy that they can trust as a main event baby face as well.
I would love for Daniel Bryan to kind of, I am a little disappointed that he's going to turn heel, but I wouldn't be as disappointed if he turned babyface. I wouldn't be as disappointed if he turned a babyface while maintaining this new kind of crazed heel edge. I mean, maybe he can finally now promote recycling and environmentalism.
We don't want Daniel Bryan who's grateful. We want Daniel Bryan who pick up your fucking trash.
Yes. And you can argue like he was already turning this audience anyway. Like, people want to cheer for him. So I hope he continues this, new shtick, but perhaps in a more fan-friendly manner. But, in order for me to like enjoy any of this, I really have to forget, like, and give myself amnesia over the past 3-4 weeks. Anytime I try to think back to the past and how any of this adds up, I just continue to give myself a headache. So if we just judge this segment for what it was, the Bludgeon Brothers versus Daniel Bryan, I think this was good. This was overall, I thought, a good SmackDown.
Oh, I thought it was a really good SmackDown. I thought that they set up so many things for the next couple of weeks for Fox, for the pay-per-view. We only had 3 matches, but I mean, that 6-man was really lengthy as well. So, and this to me was a show where it was more about angles and storylines versus just in-ring or anything like that. I really enjoyed the SmackDown quite a lot. I thought this was one of the better WWE shows in a number of weeks. I came out of it like you've got all this stuff that's kind of in place now for Lesnar and Kofi with the tag scenario at the end, which again, like, you do have to put stuff on this pay-per-view. I could see depending on what they do with Owens and Shane, like perhaps the tag is what you save for Hell in a Cell, but I mean, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thought the matches, like the 2 that we got, I thought were actually quite good. So it was an easy watch.
Yeah,
nothing embarrassing or made me question life.
Even like Heavy Machinery was a throwaway match, but like Otis got really over there. A crowd was into it. Like, this was overall, I thought a pretty strong episode of SmackDown. So let us go to the feedback. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to go 8 on this show, Way. Do you think the forum is higher or lower than my, you're being so positive?
I'm going to say lower. A little.
6.63.
Wow.
I'm surprised by this. I think that's lower than Raw.
This crowd liked Raw more than, well, clearly we're very off base, but
just totally. Like, am I crazy? I really enjoyed this SmackDown tonight. I found it was like a really easy 2 hours to get into.
Well, let's hear what the people have to say.
Andy in Columbus, I think bringing Brock back is the right call. TV money probably already dictated that he's more valuable there than on the WWE Network, but with these new contracts, it's a no-brainer. Kofi Kingston's title win was a great WrestleMania moment, but the reign has been pretty lousy. I can't see them doing the Young Bucks Lucha Brothers again so soon, so which team gets upset in the first round? Or perhaps both?
I see the Lucha Brothers moving on.
Okay, and could you see Private Party beating the Young Bucks in a big upset?
Oh, right, yes, that is the match.
I could see...
No,
okay, so we
actually,
got...
Okay, I think the Lucha Brothers will move on, but I think the Bucks will also move on.
You think it'll be Lucha Brothers and Bucks?
Yeah.
Like, that's the strongest match to put on TV.
Actually, but they just did it, so maybe...
But how many people did not see that match that might be new viewers on TNT?
I still think maybe it's a little too soon, especially after doing that ladder war. So who are the Lucha Brothers facing again?
The Lucha Brothers are facing Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy.
Interesting.
You could do the Bucks against Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. You could.
Or Private Party and Lucha Brothers. Or have them both get upset. Sure, why not? It's unpredictable.
It's good. You can make different arguments. I kind of lean towards doing the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers. I know some people might complain that it's too soon, but you're trying to put on the like what is going to have the most attention for TV. I could see a strong argument for that.
We got a Brandon from Oshawa who says, all I can think of after the show is with the potential of a Daniel Bryan face turn and Brock most likely winning the championship from Kofi, maybe we could finally get Bryan and Lesnar with more than a few days of build, hopefully leading into Mania next year. What do you guys think is the end game for Zayn and Nakamura? Should Sami manage more guys? Will one of them eventually turn on the other? Which one should turn?
Yeah, you could certainly build this eventually to doing the turn, and then they could do a program together. I think it'll be interesting to see if they're kept together in the draft or not. I think that will dictate, do they view this as a success, or do we pull the plug on this and these two are... Because remember, like, Sami Zayn is, this is a contracted wrestler. Are we getting the most out of him as in a manager role in a company that, for the majority of the last 20 years have not been always the highest on just strictly having managers? It's, they're more in vogue now than they were in the past, but... especially, like, it's one thing to have a Paul Heyman. It's another for a guy who's perfectly capable of being a full-time wrestler, being utilized in a managerial role long-term.
But I sense that they're very low on Zayn as a single star. As great as he is in ring, I feel like in their eyes, he's already reached his ceiling, and he's not really capable of more. Meanwhile, Nakamura, without a mouthpiece, in their opinion, I don't know if they could use Nakamura. So I see them keeping this for a bit unless it fails spectacularly, in which case I would actually be a little concerned for both guys because I think we've seen how they book them, without each other. And I really do feel like in their eyes, this is the best that they could do with both of them at this point. Should Sami Zayn manage more guys? Let's make sure that this, I think, gets off the ground first, I will say.
Yeah, and if you're down on him, I mean, that's where you look at, is this guy more valuable on NXT right now?
The answer for both of those guys is yes. I think so.
Like that to me becomes if we have nothing for you on the main roster, like they need stars on NXT. I don't know if that's, I wouldn't want to make that like some failed experiment on the main roster just gets sent to NXT all the time, but if it's that versus a managerial role where it's kind of just your last resort, which it's very unfortunate that that's at the point with Sami Zayn, because I think in a different environment, we would just be absolutely flabbergasted at how they screwed up this guy this guy should be a significant player and not someone we're talking about as, what do you do with this guy?
Yeah.
And that goes for both of them. Paul from New Jersey, solid opening match. Definitely glad that it looks like Kingston and Orton are done feuding, but was it me or did Brock Lesnar get little to no pop? I have no idea what to make of the Shane McMahon Kevin Owens feud. Convoluted. Bayley Carmelo, I don't know. It's like it's a bit tricky with like a lawsuit involved, but it's like it's building up to a showdown, like a big match stipulation. Like I thought that was pretty clear.
I think if you tried to actually study the legal ramifications, I would probably agree that.
Well, in WWE, the law is really simple.
Yeah.
Always read the contract, and if you don't, tough shit. Bayley Carmelo works for me, and I enjoyed Chad Gable crashing the Corbination. Those guys are getting reactions from the crowd, and I'm glad the feud is continuing. Rowan not only sounded good, but he and Harper came off like monster, vicious heels. Question, I know the rosters are going to be pretty set in stone eventually, but do you see anyone else returning to NXT from the main roster, perhaps an Apollo Crews or the Iconics? They've teased a few things on their social media, but I can't put a lot of stock into that. Yeah, I wouldn't. But yes, I can definitely see some main roster talent ending up in NXT with this move to USA.
Certainly somebody like Apollo Crews, 100%. I mean, the guy has been spending years now on the main roster, achieving 0. Whereas I think in NXT, you can really paint him with a fresh coat of paint and hopefully finally get him ready up for, either Raw or SmackDown in the future. That's really what NXT should be. It's a place to rehab guys that you think have a lot more potential, but haven't achieved it yet for whatever reason. I don't really see the same with the Iconics. I mean, I feel like NXT is going to favor much more like, it's going to be put a lot more emphasis on the work rate, and seeing the women's division there right now, I really just don't see the demand for the Iconics unless it's a one-time thing. But Crews definitely,
I can see like one or two notable people being put there.
And how like who? Like, what level is what I mean.
I would say like right below like main event level. I could see them just taking somebody to make a big deal of to put on NXT.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that too. My turn?
Yeah, you're up.
We go to Sam from Oswego, New York. Hey guys, tonight's SmackDown was an interesting one. On Sunday when I called in, I stated that Kofi needs a fresh feud, and oh my god was I spot on. I said Lesnar would be perfect for Kofi, and even though I see this as a squash, it will be a fun one to watch. Kofi's title reign has been stale, and if they still want to have Roman win a title, this is their chance. The Roman promo with Cole was good. The Rowan promo was good, and I liked how the story of Rowan and such took over the show. To be honest, I don't like the whole story at the moment for Kevin Owens, however, it could turn into something nice. Chad Gable once again showed that he is over with the crowd and that he has finally had enough of the short jokes. In the end, the show ended really well, and the destruction of the ringside, along with the opponents involved, had me remembering the Nexus debut.
It was a good ending. I liked it a lot. Yeah. Richmond writes, this show had a whole hour with no wrestling. I considered tuning into the WNBA game. That's how trash this show was. Wow, Brock with another absentee title run. Congrats on the lemon, Fox. Brock versus Roman at Mania. I'm calling it now. No Murphy, no Aleister Black, or good wrestling after the opener. I feel sorry for the cruiserweights following this show.
I guess I've just come to like not necessarily expect wrestling on the TV shows anymore. Like, to me,
Dude, you got an 17 and a half minute 6-man on this show. You got 8 minutes from Charlotte and Sasha. Like, you didn't get volume of matches, but you got match time. Like, there was quite a bit on this show. I think that's a kind of empty complaint on this show.
I might be part of the minority, but I tend to be more entertained by like interesting story development rather than a match happening for no reason.
If there's a reason for it, like if you got some great stories, I don't care how little the wrestling is. If the other stuff is really great, I'm fine with that. I don't know. I thought you had a pretty solid mix here, and I thought that the storyline stuff was way more essential on this show for a lot of big programs that they were setting up tonight.
Adam from the street wants to know if Bryan versus Roman is ever going to happen.
I don't know.
I think it'll eventually happen, but maybe they're trying to peak it for a later time.
They could. I mean, again, they could always do It's almost at the point right now where it's like one of those WCW turns. If Bryan were to align with Harper and Rowan, it's kind of like you just have to be an idiot to say, oh, of course. Like, this guy's put himself through all these tables. Like, it makes no sense to do that. So I really hope they don't do that because I hate those turns. I
think that's done. And I think what they could do now is potentially have them, be friends and then like turn on each other over another issue, maybe at a later time.
Last one here is from Coleman. An all-right SmackDown. I'm really intrigued by the Reigns, Bryan, Bludgeon Brothers angle. Kofi and Brock should be similar to Brock's matches with AJ and Bryan, which I'm absolutely okay with. I think Owens and Shane should have the first ever WWE binding workplace mediation match at the first SmackDown on Fox. This type of grounded, realistic storytelling is definitely what Fox is looking for. All right, that is our leading candidate for the debut on Fox, the first ever WWE binding workplace mediation match. A great line from Coleman.
I'll watch. Sure, I have to. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback.
Yeah, great feedback from everybody. So thank you all very much. Wai and I are going to sign off, but we will be back Wednesday. We've got the British Wrestling Experience coming at you. The double shot for members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. That will be up in the evening. And then Braden and Davey with Up Next following the debut on the USA Network. So keep it locked on postwrestling.com. We will speak with you all on Wednesday. And as Wai always says,
sayonara.